The meeting of the Planning Commission will now come to order. Please rise and follow Commissioner Duarte in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Put your right hand on your heart. Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the Secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Owens?
Present.
Commissioner Frometta?
Present.
Commissioner Spathopoulos? Present. Vice Chair Duarte?
Present.
And Chair Dominguez?
Present. Will the audience please read the cover page of the agenda as it outlines the procedures which the Commission will follow. This is time set aside for oral communications for the Planning Commission. Does any Commissioner wish to express an announcement, or report on a conference, or a meeting, or request items for a future agenda? Commissioner Frometta?
None.
Commissioner Spathis?
None.
Commissioner Owens?
None, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Duarte?
None.
And none for me also. Is the Director of Community Development aware of any presentations for tonight?
Chair Dominguez, no presentation scheduled for tonight.
Thank you. Does the Director of Community Development have any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda tonight, Chairman.
Does the Director of Community Development have a report on City Council actions?
No reports tonight, Chairman.
Now is the time set aside for public hearings. The public hearing for PLN-18-00102 is now open. Does the Secretary have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Chairman, if I can interject, I did mention to the Planning Commission that item number 1 was not going to be heard tonight, and that would be continued to a date uncertain. It means that we don't have a scheduled date to present that item. And so to be clear, the location is 7542 Suva Street. The request is a request to allow a large family daycare, 9 to 14 children on property zoned R1 6,000 single-family residential. We received data, additional data, after we completed our staff report, so we didn't have the ability to incorporate that data and provide you a comprehensive presentation of the topic. So we're going to continue that item. We've notified the applicant, or the appellant in this case, and we've also notified any resident that had made an inquiry on this project. We also updated our city's website and all of our social media to let folks know that the item was going to be continued. We will renotice the matter when a Planning Commission date is scheduled. We will contact all those individuals that inquired with us in regards to the project to let them know that it's scheduled. And then once again, we'll post that item in our local newspaper and utilize all of our social media to market that again so folks are aware to come back to that meeting. If anybody's here tonight in regards to that topic, you can talk to our assistant planner, Madeline Welch. Madeline, if you could raise your hand. She'll stay in the meeting until after a non-agenda public comment to assure that nobody has any questions on the topic so that we can address any questions that somebody may have that showed up for the item tonight. And so with that, we'll need a vote to continue that item from the Planning Commission.
Thank you very much for that clarification. So let me rescind what I just said. So let's now talk about PLN-19-00049, which I will make a motion to table this until undetermined time.
Continued to a date uncertain.
So there's the wording, continued date uncertain. May I have a second, please? Second. Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Owens?
Aye.
Commissioner Frometta?
Aye.
Commissioner Spathopoulos?
Aye.
Vice Chair Duarte?
Aye.
And Chair Dominguez?
Aye. So it's unanimous that PLN-19-0049 will be continued to an indeterminate time.
And again, if there's anybody who has any questions, they can see Madeline, and Madeline will be available to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Okay, we're going to move ahead now to PLN-18-00102. Does the Secretary have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Will the Director of Community Development introduce staff making the presentation?
Thank you, Chairman. Tonight, the presentation will be provided by our city planner, Crystal Landavazio.
Good evening, Chair and Planning Commissioners. Tonight for your consideration is a request for a site plan review to construct a 12-unit multifamily development along with a zone change request to remove the PB parking buffer zone from the rear of the property. The subject site is surrounded by single-family uses to the south, multifamily use, and an apartment building use across Florence Avenue to the north. The subject site is in close proximity to the Rio Hondo River and to the Florence Avenue overpass, which serves as an entry point into the city. The site is a 0.72-acre interior lot and was originally developed in 1955 with 6 separate dwelling units varying in size. The applicant now proposes to demolish all existing structures and build 6 separate 3-story buildings, each with 2 side-by-side units of 1,701 square feet. Each dwelling unit will also include a 2-car garage and storage area with a balcony. The applicant will create over 6,000 square feet of landscaped area on the subject site. 2 separate recreational areas will be provided, along with 6 guest parking spaces. As part of this review, staff addressed the possibility of incorporating electrical vehicles charging stations onto one of the, or some of the 30 parking spaces that we provided on site. The applicant, however, has indicated that the need for such charging stations is typically low for developments maintained as rental units, which he is planning to do on site. But the applicant and his team are currently researching the potential of incorporating solar panels or if there is any market interest for EV charging stations on site. Craftsman-style architecture will be followed for all buildings on the property. The units fronting Florence Avenue are provided with a traditional front porch designed to create modulation, while the east and west elevations are also provided with additional detail since these elevations will greet visitors entering the city and the site. 2 separate color patterns will be used throughout the site to provide added deviation to the structures. The units will consist of an entry garage and storage on the first floor. Main living areas are on the 2nd floor and all bedrooms will be located on the 3rd floor. Units were designed with sensitivity to neighboring privacy concerns by locating primary living spaces toward the center of the property, while the staircases and restrooms are provided adjacent to side property lines. The site currently has dual zoning, primarily R3, and a PB parking buffer zone is located on the south 46 feet of the property. In 2008, a comprehensive zoning code update was completed which eliminated the PB zone because the intent of creating separation buffers between land uses could be accomplished with development standards. Although the zoning category and its standards were eliminated from the zoning code, the zoning map still reflects PB zones in different areas. The proposed zone change will eliminate the PB zone from the property and designate the entire lot as an R3 zone, which is consistent with the area and the general plan designation for the site. As shown, the weathered brick veneer will be used throughout the elevations, along with horizontal hardy plank made to look like wood siding, and accent features are provided such as recessed windows, tapered columns, rafter tails, exposed beams, and planter boxes to further enhance the buildings. The Development Review Committee evaluated the project as a result of the fire department's comments. The applicant is conditioned to locate a fire hydrant on site and include a truck turnaround at the rear of the property. No other departments expressed concern over the project, and this concludes staff's report. I am available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Landavazzo. I appreciate your presentation. Very thorough. Very good presentation. Commissioner Frometta, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Commissioner Spathos, questions?
None, thank you.
And Commissioner Owens, questions?
None, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Duarte, any questions?
None at this time.
I do have one question. I didn't see anything here. Maybe I read it, but could you elucidate if there's anything here regarding handicap parking?
A parking space that will be provided on the project site, which is the minimum requirement for the project. And let me see where the reference is to that.
I must have overlooked it.
I didn't see that either.
It's one per code.
Yeah.
You can see them on the big ones.
On the plans that were provided along with your packet, the site plan, which is sheet AS 1.1, the east side provides the.
Yes, thank you so much. Mr. Schindler showed that to me. I missed that. Thank you so much. I believe Commissioner from Meta has a question.
No, that was,
I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your time.
I was just pointing out the parking.
Before I call the applicant and his representative, this will be the time for any planning commissioner to disclose any pre-hearing site visits or pre-hearing discussions that the commissioners may have had about this project. Commissioner Fermetta?
None?
Commissioner Spathos?
None.
And Commissioner Owens?
None, Mr. Chair, thank you.
And Vice Chairman Duarte?
No disclosures.
I likewise have no disclosures. Will the applicant and his representative please come forward to give testimony? Please state your name and your address for the record.
Hello, my name is Pavan Mati. My address is 8255 Firestone Boulevard, Suite 100. This is actually Ramon, who's actually our licensed architect. I'm the owner-developer. I lived in the city of Downey for 32 years, went to pretty much all the schools. The reason we designed the project the way we did is it really provided the need that's needed for the households in the neighborhood. Ramon, can you get into the details of the architecture?
Certainly. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for hearing us this evening. My name is Ramon Galvez Arango. I'm the architect of record. Again, my name is Ramon Galvez Arango. I'm the architect of record. My address is 18588 Morongo Drive, Fountain Valley, California. We worked hand in hand with planning staff to try and develop an American arts and crafts aesthetic expression. And so we chose materials that harken back to the days of craftsmen actually hand-laying brick and applying wood siding. And we've, the expression can be readily found in Southern California from the turn of the century on. We have fairly shallow roof slopes, deep roof overhangs, expressed or exposed rafter tails. We have an allusion to the structure within with beam projections and decorative wood trim around the windows, and actually the windows are decorated themselves. We think it will be a very nice addition, very nice enhancement.
Okay. Commissioner Fermetta, do you have any questions?
I have a question, which I don't recall. Is it it's not gated, or is it open?
This is open.
It's open?
We have perimeter wall surrounding 3 sides, but it's open to the street.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Spathos, do you have any questions?
None at this point.
Commissioner Owens, any questions?
None as well, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Vice Chairman Duarte, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
I don't have any questions. Thank you for your presentation. Has there been any correspondence, either in favor or opposition?
Staff has received no correspondence for this project.
Okay. Is there anyone who'd like to speak either in behalf or in opposition of this application?
For the record, NWA. So we're here to talk about 42 USC 2000D, right? Am I right, Mr. Steve-O? Federal Title VI. Gateway cities opportunity to upgrade properties for immediate neighborhoods for betterment of what? Welfare. 2, comfort. 3, public health. 4, safety. Well, you heard, no one's safe anywhere nowadays, not even at Costco. You're not safe at Costco anymore. So what makes you believe that this project is just as good as a project that's in delay off of Firestone by the new Jack in the Box, by the Dodge dealership that you guys have created, and it's still unavailable, too costly, and the project is slow and behind to complete? Is this going to be one of these misfortunes of this commission? Isn't this the history of this commission, to delay projects and red tape or no red tape? So why are you giving this developer a hard time? Cut to the chase. Waive all those liens, waive all those permits, and let them finish the job. And then you guys could take the money on the backside of things, and no one will know. The only person who knows is me, myself, and I, and Aldo Schindler from Gateway Cities. See, because that's the plan. The plan is to build but not provide for your residents, right? Why isn't there a price tag on what these would cost? Because the last price tag I read off of Paramount on all those empty buildings was that they were up at $600,000. And no fool in California can afford a job that pays you over 6 figures, so you can't afford it. So what does the developer do? He drops the rates. Now you can afford it. Now it's worth $400,000 and you're paying $10,000 in taxes, and the city is happy now. They got their money, fool. See where I'm at with that? Why isn't there any public here speaking on the item? Because no one cares. All you care about is fake news and troubleshooting Donald Trump, First Amendment. Pencil neck politicians in California who can't keep their mouths shut and provide adequate housing for people who need a place called home. Why can't you use Measure S and give them a bond so they can finish their job in 3 months? Why can't you give them a loan like you did a Nissan and have them pay $1 million back later, alligator? Rough. See? Simple, simple, simple. And yet, the applications and finding is 1, the site plan is consistent with goals, policies adopted by the council. Bullshit. 2, objectives of this article for the zone, purpose. The site is located near the riverbed, poor area. 3. Features include architecture, landscape. Big deal. We're in a drought. Enhance the character and design of the site. Yeah, it's handcrafted, but not in the way in the days our fathers built homes. 4, parking areas. Proper consideration for the disabled? Fuck you. None. You don't care about disabled people the same way you allow that man in Costco to shoot 2 family members. 5, improve the community appearance by prevention and extreme dissimilarities and monotomy in new construction. Big fucking jargon of words no one cares about. Are they affordable? Can your son and daughter out of college buy one of those homes today? No. So this is where you fail at, commissioners. Because you're not providing housings in Downey. You're not looking for the future. You're looking for the buck now. So waive all these permits, give the developer what he wants, and at the end, I hope he doesn't give you nothing in return because, like I said, I'm in favor of his position that you expedite all his permits and allow him to build because that's the way you want to build Downey. That's your future look.
apologize for the outbursts. Does anyone else like to come up and give public testimony? Please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Lila Vargas, and I live at 7203 Irwin Grove Drive in Downey. I just have some, I live right next to where this is going to be built, and I had some concern about the back, because my house is going to be in the back. So is the parking lot going to be in the back, or how far is the buildings going to be from the property line towards the back?
Still?
Mr. Chair, the distance from the residential structures to the rear is 156 feet. The distance in the rear, there's a 45-foot landscaped area, 5 feet immediately adjacent to that rear property line, will be provided with trees and shrubs from 6 to 15 feet in height to provide additional buffer between that residential area behind it and the project. The nearest parking is located over 45 feet away from the rear property line.
Is it going to be like a park, like a recreation park for residents? That's what it sounds like?
Right. They have 2 open areas where they will have amenities. So a barbecue and table area, and then perhaps some play equipment is what's being considered for another area in that rear portion.
So I'm assuming that it's going to be gated then?
There is a wall that's proposed along the east, south, and west property lines. So there will be a minimum 6-foot wall separating all around those areas.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward?
Hello, Cheryl Van Rensselaer, 7309 Via Amarita. And although I don't live directly on Irwin Grove, I was just wondering, I heard that there were just 6 parking spaces in the back. So that's kind of 1 per visitor parking. That's kind of 1 per house.
So Crystal, can you address that, please?
Absolutely. So there are 6 parking spaces. The zoning code requires half a parking space per unit being built, so only 6 are required for the property. They're not all located at the rear. They're dispersed throughout. There are 3 toward the rear of the property, and then the other 3 are dispersed on the front half of the lot.
And is that where the handicapped?
Correct. One of the spaces up toward the front is an ADA space.
And I think there's 2-car garage for each unit, correct?
Correct. Each unit has its own 2-car garage. The 6 spaces are designated for guests, visitors.
Yeah, I understood that. It just seemed that I thought that there was more required, but apparently it's been changed. I'm concerned about the egress. We're coming directly out onto Florence. So there's no stop sign. There's going to be a lot of traffic coming right over the bridge, right to that signal on Old River.
If the chair pleases, I can answer the question. Sure. The property actually it exits onto a frontage road, which doesn't go directly to Florence Avenue. It's sort of a branch off, and at a stop sign is where it connects to the main streets. And in just a minute, Mary, if we can put the PowerPoint back on, we can go ahead and show you the aerial view to give you a better perspective of that.
And that's no different than what's present, correct?
Exactly. The site currently has that same condition where it exits road. So you can see here, let's see. This here is a frontage road, and it's separated. This here separates the property from coming directly onto Florence Avenue. There's a separate little area further down where you would get onto the main street.
Okay, so that's right next to are those the office buildings? Are those apartments?
Those are apartment buildings.
Okay, and then this office building down here. So it's going to go out and go that way?
Mm-hmm.
No different than what's currently there with those established old apartment buildings.
Yeah, okay. I just know that because there's no parking there at 3 o'clock, so that helps on that, but it gets backed up a lot right there on Florence at, the traffic end of the day. So,
And is it only available to exit eastbound? You couldn't turn westbound against the eastbound traffic. So I think the only,
People do, so I was wondering
Yeah.
about that.
I drive that area, so I would agree.
What did engineering say? Anything?
Again, as the chair pointed out, there's an existing condition. The site and that area is currently developed that way, so that's the existing traffic flow in the area. They didn't identify a need for any changes to any of the traffic in the area as a result of the project.
That's going to be hard to get out and go west, for sure. So that might be a consideration of some, right turn only or something like that. That would be very helpful. I don't want to see accidents happening, that's all I'm saying. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Your questions were very apropos. Appreciate it. Is there forward and give testimony, either in favor or in opposition of the application? Would the applicant like to present and have rebuttal time? No? Okay. Does the planning staff have a recommendation?
Yes, Chairman. Staff recommends approval of Resolution 19-3094, recommending approval of zone change PLN 18-00102 to the City Council and approval of Resolution 19-3095, approving the proposed site plan.
The hearing on PLN-18-00102 is now closed. Now it's time for us to have a discussion. Commissioner Fermetta,
I have no questions.
no comments?
I think it's a beautification improvement to that area. I think it's gonna. I like this project. It's gonna remove all those not so liking apartments and replace it with what I call a gorgeous apartment structure. So I'm for it.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Spathos, comments?
I agree with Mr. Fermetta. I think the project looks nice. My question, and the resident here brought up a good point, and I brought up something to Aldo here. The exit to Florence is somewhat older. We can possibly, if it's an option, talk to Public Works to restripe, do something to clean that egress onto Florence. I passed by it several times, and I think it's like a 4-foot block wall fence. Looks hideous. It's wear and tear. I understand that there is new construction going in. Maybe we can encourage the developers to somehow clean up that street, that exit, do something to make it look more appealing, not only for the residents of the new development, but the surrounding residents who've been there. And maybe that can even help ease some traffic. Because like she said, there is a stop sign there. I just Googled Earth it and you can see it, but it looks real shoddy. The lines are out, the paint is gone. So if that's an option, maybe you can help us all on.
I'm not sure we have the power to do that from this dais. The property and the application is limited to the property at question. I think your points are valid. They're well taken. Maybe we can have a conversation outside of that. But I think that the wall and the striping is not within our purview at this point in time. Aldo?
Yes, Chairman, you're exactly right. What we'll do is we'll work with our Public Works Department to see if we can leverage any resources that they have. Because we're sprucing up that area, let's see if we can spruce up any of the pavement striping and any of the amenities in the public right-of-way. Commissioner Spathos is also right on point in that how can we leverage something nice that's happening in an area that is a little blighted? So we'll definitely reach out to our Public Works Department and see what is actually owned by the city. We don't know if that wall is owned by the city or a private party. We'll do an assessment and once again see if we can spruce up any of those public amenities around there. Also, when we chatted with Public Works about the exit point there onto Florence, there wasn't any issue in terms of that stop sign, but we will have them assess that as well based on the comments that we heard from the public tonight about the possibility or likelihood of people turning left and what the frequency of that is versus going right, and also see if there's been any traffic accidents on that site, if there's been challenges, if it's a challenging intersection, and then also use this as an opportunity to broach that topic.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I as well concur with my fellow commissioners. What a beautiful upgrade. You know, well needed, well deserved. I appreciate Commissioner Spatho's bringing up, you know, enhancing, you know, the stop sign and or if it includes curb and gutter, you know, whatever the city has control over, you know, to really make this entire project, you know, what you have envisioned and planned and presented this evening. I want to focus on something I heard from staff in their presentation. So Ms. Landavazo did reference maybe potentially your interest in electrical vehicle charging and or photovoltaics. I don't see it mentioned in any of the conditions. I would be particularly interested in seeing, in as much simply some conduit, you know, to provide, you know, opportunity to maybe put photovoltaics on the rooftop in the future, you know, into the electrical plant panel, and or conduits out to potentially, you know, charging stations if that wasn't too big of a cost to you. I think that attracts another level of, you know, of ownership and or, you know, clients to the site. So maybe we could talk about that, looking to add that somewhere in one of the conditions, just if the applicant has no issue with that. And other than that, beautiful project. I'm totally in favor.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Duarte, comments?
Yes, pretty much. You know, I agree with all the commissioners here. You know, this project is really aesthetically pleasing. Especially, it looks like a big upgrade that was previously there. I think, yeah, you know, if that area is gonna, you know, this project's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be aesthetically pleasing. You know, maybe Public Works, like Commissioner Spato said, could look into the signage and, you know, making it consistent with what's going to be there. But yeah, I'm definitely in favor of the project. It looks good to me.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Yeah, I think this is a very outstanding project. You know, knowing what's there and what has been proposed here is like phenomenal. I think it's definitely an upgrade for the city, for the area, for the nearly blighted zone in that region. You know, I was particularly interested in commenting on the driveways. It's just a decorative paved driveway. Wow, that's pretty novel, pretty cool. I like that, instead of the monotony and drudgery that we have with just basic concrete and, heaven forbid, asphalt. So I think this is very, very well done. I totally see where this is going to set that area on the map, so to speak. I think the craftsman style, everything that's been discussed here is just phenomenal. I will discuss further the conduit for the electrical vehicles. I think that's the future. I think that's the future, you know, worldwide. Certainly, I think we have an opportunity now to actually take a look at that and see if we can make that either a condition currently, or what the city has proposed in order to have new construction, whether it's commercial residential or commercial in itself. So I want to ask Aldo to comment on that, please.
I'm going to default to my planning staff in terms of what our zoning code says.
Sure. Mr. Chair, in regards to what the policy is that the planning staff has actually taken a look at with regard to these projects, it is definitely our intent to ensure that we do try to get this incorporated for condominium projects. Since those are going to be for sale, there's a sense of ownership when they're being marketed to somebody. It is an amenity that somebody will be looking for when they're purchasing their first home, their first condominium. With regard to the rental properties, it definitely was part of the recommendation and the discussion. We did not
really push the need to include it as an absolute condition. I believe that the suggestion that was made to perhaps install conduit so that there is future potential, I think that is a very viable condition that could be included in this. But just for the again, the Planning Commission's clarification, the planning staff is approaching rental properties with suggestive language, and condominium projects is where we're conditioning and requiring these amenities to be provided.
Thank you. Commissioner Owens, what is your feeling on what you just heard in reference to your conduits?
I like, both options. If the applicant sees it as a viability for a rental property, certainly that's great. That's forward thinking by them, and a good suggestive, end result by city staff. On condos, owned property, I like to hear that it is a requirement and not necessarily a suggestion. So I think I'm still interested if the developer's interested at his cost, of course, if it's not too much to have that done, but I hear that we cannot necessarily ordain it so.
Well, we have the opportunity here to make it part of the conditional use, or we can just let it slide. So would you like to make a motion?
Can I ask a question?
Of course, please do so.
Actually, two questions. Since these are our apartments, and if you were to put a charging station in the outside, would that open it to the public?
No.
No?
No, it's private property.
It's private property. Okay.
You can lock them.
Now, you don't necessarily need a charging station, if I'm correct, for those electric cars. You can have the proper electrical connection in the garages available to them. Is that an option? Is that part of this plan?
Yes, that's the option that's being discussed. Okay. Is, as Commissioner Owen said, and it's to his benefit, he's the subject matter expert in regards to the electrical field and industry and so forth, is providing the conduit so that you have the ability to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not a block station, it's ability for the homeowner or property owner to install it.
Yeah, it wouldn't sit as a monument outside of a garage area. It would just be some conduit and a junction box provided relatively close to the sub panel, if you will, in the garage area.
I think if that's the direction you'd like to go, it might be best to reopen the public hearing and have the applicant come in and chime in, see if that's something he wants to do, can do, and get his feedback before you put it as a condition.
Okay, I will take that as a recommendation. I'd like to invite the applicant up to the podium, please.
So the public hearing is reopened for this limited purpose.
Yes.
Yes, sir. We can certainly accommodate charging stations within garages. There are some manufacturers that have charging stations that actually plug into 110 outlets, so nothing special is needed. We like the idea of, if there will be charging stations, we like the idea of having them protected within garages as opposed to out in public area. There's a level of control on the facility side so that the renter of the unit is using their electricity, so they just plug in. There's easy control there. If a charging station is on the exterior, we're concerned that a station might be vandalized, especially if it's just a one-off station. If there's no redundancy, if it's vandalized, whoever the tenant is that is accustomed to using it may not have it for their use for some time. So we're certainly, if I may, we're open to the idea of we're open to accommodating the extra electrical outlet in each garage for potential future electrical charging station for cars.
Great.
Does that answer your?
Sure. I did want to add one thing.
Yes, sir.
You know, we as a developer owner, one of the things that we have to really look at is cost versus benefit. Usually renters tend to not have this pride of ownership of properties. Our biggest concern is maintenance, right? Anything that we put on a property that has maintenance issues, that has a constant maintenance issues. So one of the things that both of us have been discussing is what can we implement that's going to be efficient and improve the living condition of the occupant. So we are looking at all different options on sustainability. Even our landscaping is very sustainable in comparison to a lot of the landscaping that's usually provided. So we are looking at things that are cost effective, yet that has an improvement and reduction of using energy consumption. So, but we will look into further what each and every one of you brought up. And we will definitely take that into consideration.
So I brought you up here to address the issue of the conduit, whether you feel it's reasonable and feasible for us to ask you to provide that in all of the units. So I'm not sure I got a clear answer on that.
Well, unfortunately, because we need to do a little bit more research on that, so I don't have an answer at this particular time, but we'll definitely look into it. I'm assuming it's something that we have an option to include in the property in the process of construction. After we discuss, after we understand what it's going to take, we're definitely open to it. I'm very much into the sustainability element. We want to make sure that it's also financially feasible for the project.
I have a question, just to keep this going, for Commissioner Owens. So he did mention that they're going to have outlets, and you probably know better than all of us here. If there's a conduit provided, does it change the output or the capabilities of that station? Because, like, my mom drives a Chevy Volt, right? And it goes into 110, you have to have an updated panel. I'll give you an example. Does there have to be something special in that conduit to provide a certain type of charging station? Or can it be off of, so maybe even the developer might be able to help us. Okay, you're raising your hand there, so.
You may have the familiarity that I would say.
So the commercial type charging stations, you drive up to a public spot.
Right.
You expect to charge for an hour, is a higher capacity or higher throughput charging station. Residential charging stations, the idea is that the homeowner or renter will park overnight and charge overnight.
Gotcha.
So the units, the actual charging units, hang it on the wall, plug it into 110 power.
Right.
Simple as that. There's no additional conduit required.
Yeah.
I think the notion of conduit was, my understanding was, if we have a station outside,
or
provide infrastructure for future charging station in the form of conduit.
I was thinking both photovoltaics wise and or the charging station that we're speaking to at the moment. To answer Commissioner Spatho's questions, if you will, from my world of knowledge. For the charging station, no wire or any other type equipment would be asked of you. It would be simply, say, 2 feet of 1-inch conduit dropped out of the bottom of the panel in a 5S deep, using all the trade nomenclature, junction box with a cover on it in the drywall. Done. And so if a tenant did move in, then they would speak with you about, okay, I've got this brand, of electric vehicle or that brand of electric vehicle. And my interest would be either or 240 volt, cheaper on their electrical bill, or the 120 that we're speaking of, a little more expensive. But the 1-inch conduit would provide the means or the raceway to do either or, and certainly that 5S deep junction box, same thing. So it's as simple in what I was interested in asking of you is simply, that 2-foot piece of 1-inch conduit with that 5S box with a cover for the charging, electric vehicle charging. On the other side, anything photovoltaic wise, same size conduit, just a little longer run, out of the panel up to where an array, however many panels, would fit, according to that unit's space, 6 panels, 4 panels, 2 panels, A 1-inch would provide, the opportunity to bring the string wire, or the wire down, into the panel to, backfeed and provide the artificially generated, extra voltage.
Can I ask a question to the developer? Is there a thought in the near future or distant future to potentially change these into condominium sale projects, 10 years, 20 years, whatever down the line? Or is this strictly a rental unit for now and in the distant future? And the reason I ask that is because as an apartment owner, feasibility is the main concern, right? You want to make money. Your return is what's most important to you, and we understand that. If it is something that you decide to do, and I'm thinking for you in this case, I think that would be a great idea. I think it's wonderful. I think it's awesome, revolutionary, right? You're doing charging stations. But feasibility-wise, if that's going to stay an apartment building, doesn't make sense. So I feel you and I understand you, but can you answer that? Is that an option down the road?
We have not discussed that option. One of the things that we are looking to is long-term assets, in the sense that multifamily growth. Little history, a little bit of research that I've done is the reason we designed this as a multifamily is for the long term. Two, there isn't enough multifamily product in the city of Downey that meets the community needs. And that was our first rationale on why we wanted to hold it as a multifamily. We could have designed it up front as a resale product. I personally did not think, and all of us felt that this has much more of a value to the community than a resale product. So long term, this is going to be a multifamily product.
Okay. And then back to the issue on the feasibility, that's a great point, Commissioner. The property will have to maintain site lighting. You see that there's a specific drawing for that. That's a cost to them. It'll have sprinklers, in areas where, plants need to be watered. Those are, driven by electricity. So on the photovoltaics issue, the house meter, separate from the individual units meters that the tenant would pay for, is on them. So it would behoove them, and it already has, to look at those other, means of generating, local electricity, not buying it from the grid. So it may pencil out. You have to decide that. Are those panels going to pay for, over the long haul and reduce, our overall costs to maintain the site? So I just point that out, what you already know.
Does any other commissioner have any questions for the applicant? Vice Chairman?
I don't have a question for the applicant, but I do have an electrical vehicle. And just you can charge it in a home. It's just going to take a lot longer than an actual station. But kind of what the applicant said is true, is that, when you're using that, just a regular household charge, it's going to be overnight, probably 8 to 10 hours. And it's, the only time I ever used it is if I'm really low and then I'm going to go in the morning to get a full charge. So you can use a regular charge. There also is other cables that you can plug into what's commonly used for your washer dryer, which is a little faster, which takes more electricity. But from what I know is it's kind of already implemented. It's just in terms of how much, how fast do you want to charge, and if that's going to be your primary source of charging, as opposed to, whether you have a Tesla or now they have, I think Jaguar has a couple stations. So, those are the ones that you use for primary if you really need to charge quickly in a quick manner. Other than that, I think you could use the ones, just a regular outlet at the home, just to get you by to, go to our gas stations or our centers.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to speak? Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Since we reopened this to public comment, is there anybody out in the audience who'd like to comment on this?
Yeah, sounds like extortion, right, ladies and gentlemen? How many people who pay rent have an electric car except for Mr. Duarte there? It's not affordable. Tesla cars are not affordable. 95,000 vehicle, and you're going to plug it into your rental home? I don't believe so. That's why I use the word extortion. Stop taking money from the developer. You gave him the permit, he put in his plans, waive all those liens, waive all that interest and compounded interest on that loan that you sacrifice against the public citizens of Downey. See, Mr. Owens even brought up, well, why don't we put this type of service box? Well, why don't you mind your business and let the developer make it affordable for the rentals? Those who could afford to pay what he's asking, the $3,000 a month rent. Because that's how he sees it, and that's how I see it. And especially if you're living in a flush, lush, beautiful, gorgeous-looking home, as brought out by Mr. Frometta, you don't got a problem with the car. We have all this free public transportation nowadays. Transportation niggers all over the place. You got the Green Line nigger, you got MTA niggers, and you got all those other Uber niggers that can drive you anywhere you want under what conditions? Clarence Brandenburg versus Ohio, US 39544, 1969. It's just a matter of speech. It's me configuring how you can configure how to overcharge a developer whose plan is to provide housing. Now, if you weren't so rough and tough on this type of development, hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of developers would be in the city of Downey right now building. But you got too many permits, too many process, too many amendments and add-ons to these plans, which I, the public, find offensive, very offensive. And people in the public should know that. If I was going to build and someone came to me and said, hey, yeah, you can have it for $100,000, but sorry to say on the back end it's going to run you $300,000, I'd be saying, holy shit, I got fucked. Excuse the language, but that's part of free speech. And that was my opinion, not directed at anyone, because I don't want to offend anybody on the demeanor of civility of decorum rules. Because I'm the legislative body tonight at the podium, just like the developer. Came up here honestly speaking and saying what he can and cannot do, and I'm in favor of what he said. It wasn't our proposal to put electric cars for people. It wasn't our proposal to put solar, but I'll put the solar. It's a give. See, again, don't be so hard on developers. All they are is a business. And in business, like Trump said, it's either win, 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 or be like the fake news losers. Right? No one wants to answer because I'm right. The developer's right. He put a plan, he put a proposal, he budgeted what he could afford. Now he's saying to you, give me something back in return for what I built in your community, what you're getting back in taxes when you jack up the taxes on Measure I, Measure S, for the taxpayers to believe you promised something good. Capital improvement, infrastructure improvement, when you're gutting the developers to pay for all that extra. See, Aldo, I figured out the scheme. Your scheme or scam is the same as every small city and great city, Mr. Director of Gateway Cities. And that's why the FBI sent me in here, possibly to pull a string under the hat, to see if I can catch a big fat rat, to help those in our community understand that if you don't got what Trump got, to come up here and speak your mind out, as long as you don't make a threat, you're okay. Because Jennifer H. Copps, a judge from the Moss courts, is a very strong believer in First Amendment. And so, to no offense, next time when Mr. Dominguez comes in here with his plans and he's 2 minutes late, I think he should waive. Matter of fact, my opinion and point is he should have to waive any additional amendments and additions that you're planning to charge to the developer, because that's a conflict of interest, and that should go back to council to decide whether or not they should pay additional costs and fees for permits.
Okay. Does the applicant care for rebuttal time? Thank you. The hearing on this matter is closed again. Okay, so we're moving right back now to the discussion we were having on conduit for EV. Does any commissioner want to further discuss this? Okay. Commissioner Owens, since you brought this up, would you like to make a motion, sir?
I would, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to add into the conditions language, and I'll rely on city staff, that would require future conduit provisions for both electrical vehicle charging and photovoltaics.
Okay. Did you get that? Okay.
Yes, I have prepared language if the chair would like me to read.
Yes, please.
Appropriate conduit shall be provided within garages and throughout the development to accommodate installation of future electric vehicle charging stations and photovoltaic panels.
That suffice for you, sir? Okay, second. May we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Commissioner Owens?
Aye.
Commissioner Frometta?
Aye.
Commissioner Spathopoulos?
Hey,
Vice Chair Duarte?
Aye.
And Chair Dominguez?
Aye.
The voting capability is working this time? Or it is? So no roll call would be necessary. It's
Okay.
just Mary asking that the voting is now open.
Very
And then
good.
you would press your
Okay.
remote, and that would be yes or no or abstain, and it'll show up on that screen. So
Okay.
no roll call is necessary.
As long as it works. Okay.
Okay. The motion passes with 3 in favor and Commissioners Spathopoulos and Frometta voting against.
Okay, so now we have that amended. Now let's, want to discuss anything further on this item, or should we go for it? Do I have a motion either for or against approval of the applications we have?
I'll make a motion to approve 19-3094 as conditioned on the development of this plan, or the plan review and the zone, I'm sorry, yes, the plan review and the zone change and the development of this project.
So they would need to insert the additional
No,
condition.
that would be with the amended condition.
With the amended condition.
In the future, if you want to amend a condition, you can do it all in one motion. Approve the application with the amendment to the conditions of approval. You don't have to take them separate. You can do it all in one motion. So for this one, we would approve the recommended action with the amendment to the conditions as stated by the city planner. And that would be your motion.
Okay, so clarification. So what we just did, then, will that suffice for in block, or do we need
No,
to separate
I think
again?
what you did was just approve the change,
Correct.
the addition to the condition.
Yes.
But in the future, you can actually wrap the whole, the approval of the application plus the added amendment to the conditions. You can wrap it up in one motion and do it in one motion rather than two.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
all. But for now, that would be the motion,
Okay.
as I stated, and you can take a vote on that one.
All right, so I'll second the motion to approve. So, shall we vote?
Mary has to.
Okay. So go ahead and place your votes.
Is it cleared, Mary?
Yeah, we got to clear the screen.
So we're gonna rename it.
So
with
the,
with the modified conditions.
So this is an approval of the application, approving the recommended action by staff on this application for approval with the amendment to the condition as stated by the city planner. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the vote is now open. Please place your votes. Okay, the motion passes to approve the application with the amendments to the conditions of approval, with all 5 in favor.
Thank you, Mary. So this action of the Planning Commission will be final unless the matter is appealed to City Council with the appropriate fee and within specified time set forth in the city's ordinance. We will now discuss PLN-18-00-191. Does the Secretary have proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Will the Director of Community Development introduce staff making the presentation?
Thank you, Chairman. Tonight, once again, we have our city planner, Crystal Landavazo, to make the presentation.
Good evening once again. Before you is a request for approval of a site plan review, a conditional use permit, and a zone change for property located at 13034. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a new convenience store with a Type 20 ABC license for the off-site sale of beer and wine, along with a zone change to remove an obsolete parking buffer designation and rezone the entire property as C1 Neighborhood Commercial. The subject site is a square-shaped corner parcel located on the northeast corner of Downey Avenue and Gardendale Street. The site was originally developed as a service station but was later converted to a used car sales business. The proposed project involves the demolition of an existing 1,400 square foot building to accommodate a new 2,800 square foot 7-Eleven convenience market with associated parking and landscaping. The site will be accessible via existing driveways on Downey Avenue and Gardendale Street. The building will be located toward the northeast corner of the lot with its storefront facing Downey Avenue. Landscaping will be provided along the north and east property lines and along street frontages, as well as a landscape island adjacent to the trash enclosure. The proposed building will have a modern architectural style with a flat roof and metal canopy. The building will include a two-tone stucco finish, large storefront windows, and vertical wood alternative siding at the corners. The existing masonry block walls on the property will remain and be painted to match the colors of the building. The applicant will be applying for a Type 20 off-sale beer and wine license from the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control. The convenience store will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. However, consistent with state law, beer and wine sales will take place between 6 a.m. and 2 a.m. daily. A comprehensive zoning code update eliminated the parking buffer zone because separation could be maintained through development standards. Again, although the zoning category was eliminated from the zoning code, the PB zone still exists on the zoning map. The current request is to change the PB designation on the property to C1, which will eliminate the discontinued PB zone. Additionally, the recommendation will remove the dual zoning on the property, and the entire property will be designated as C1 Neighborhood Commercial, which is consistent with the general plan designation for this property. The Development Review Committee evaluated the project, and no department expressed major concerns over the project. All conditions provided by Public Works, Police, Fire, and Building have been included into the attached resolution. For Planning Commission's reference, on page 26 of your agenda item, conditions 13 and 14 were included to further ensure that the development will operate and continue to operate primarily as a convenience store. Overall, the proposed site plan, conditional use permit, and zone change as proposed aim to enhance the site and the surrounding area. And this concludes staff's report. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. What was the concern by the police department?
The police department actually did not have any concerns with regard to this project. The only 3 conditions that were added by the police department are in general in reference to providing the establishment with an alarm system and providing surveillance, I believe, are what the 3 items cover.
So there was no issue on either loitering or noise or access to the freeway and robberies or anything like that, increasing traffic and or crime with the community?
That's correct. During the initial DRC meeting, there was no concern raised. The Planning Commission has worked with the applicant to ensure that the landscaping that was a concern that came up during staff's review. We did contact the police department again with regard to whether or not they wanted a sort of a second chance at adding additional conditions, and they felt that with the conditions that staff included under the planning regulation with regard to how the operation was supposed to be maintained and staff's plan to ensure that the landscaping was provided with a mixture of different heights of hedges along the landscaping areas to prevent flat areas, which would encourage any type of loitering.
Mm-hmm.
The police department felt that that would be sufficient along with the lighting plan that they're providing.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Romero, any questions?
No questions.
And Commissioner Spathos, questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Owens, questions?
None, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Vice Chairman Duarte, questions?
Just in terms of the where the structure is at right now, just to the south of it, it's a Super A Foods, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Is that still open or is that closed? It's operating?
That's operational.
It's operational.
Oh, okay. Because I know Ranch Basket, one of those I thought was closed.
Paramount.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then just, in terms of the additional requirements and 13, is that unique to all new Type 20 licenses, or is it just unique to this project, or is that to everybody wants to open a Type 20?
Those conditions are fairly regular throughout most jurisdictions. Similar type of conditions are provided. My understanding is that similar type of businesses within the city maybe have not had that same condition added to them, but it was something that staff believed would be appropriate. It's a standard condition in every other jurisdiction, so it's another thing we wanted to incorporate.
Okay.
It's welcome language. Thank you for updating our city.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you very much for your time. I call the applicant and his representative. This is the time for any planning commission discussing pre-hearing site visits, pre-hearing discussions, commissioners may have had about the project. Commissioner Spathos, Commissioner Romero,
None.
Commissioner Owens,
None, Mr. Chair, thank you. None, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Duarte. No disclosures from the else. Well, the applicant and his representative, his important testimony, please state your name and address.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Greg Fick. My name is Tate Associates, and I'm the representative for the developer. We have here. We think this is a major upgrade. This is a major upgrade property that's there right now. And we've read all the conditions. We've read all the conditions of approval. Conditions of here to answer any questions that you may have. As well as we have seven answering operational questions that you have as well.
Commissioner Spathos, questions for the applicant.
Just a simple aesthetic question on the south side of the property. There's an apartment building back there. Maybe you can help me. Staff. Are those trees? Like there's trees on the the northeast corner? Is that just open? Is that just to the apartment building style? It's like a garden style. So behind where it says proposed building, where it says proposed building, you have trees on the north side near ingress on Downey Avenue. Yeah, right there. You got it, right there. Is that considered? Is that considered
not intentional? I think that there's the
Yeah.
It's not something that,
Is there anything proposed to close it or make it somewhat,
I mean, if we needed to add a tree, I don't think that would be a
Yeah.
deal killer there.
is that considered at all? Yeah, like,
Chair, if I may provide some additional clarification. That area, as you can see up on the site plan, there's only about 5 feet between the wall and the building here. So to have a tree growing in that area might be a little cumbersome, and it might not grow to its full potential.
Got it.
You are correct in that there is an apartment building at the rear. However, there is a drive aisle and parking separating the property from that actual residential portion of the adjacent property, which should provide a sufficient buffer between the two uses.
You're saying the driveway and the wall?
Correct.
Correct, there is a wall there.
That is all.
It's 5 feet is the dimension?
Yeah, which would make it tough to have a substantial tree with roots and everything there too.
Maybe you fence that off?
There is a wall on the north.
A wall to the apartment building to the north?
Yes, exactly.
But getting between the building and the wall, any abatement measure?
Are you talking for loitering or for
Yeah.
security, or
Yeah.
what's the reference?
All the above.
All the above.
We can work with, we're anti-loitering, so, I mean, we'll work. We have security cameras as well that prohibit that. But
Mr. Chair, if I may, additionally, staff is paying very close attention and will continue to pay close attention to the landscaping for that particular reason, ensuring that there is hedges of varying heights, again, prevent access to the area. So we'll be making sure that the property is continuing to be maintained with similar type of landscaping.
Is there a door on that side we're talking about?
there's not a door on the north side.
There's a solid wall?
Correct.
Okay. So you won't be stacking boxes and crates there?
Correct.
Right, exactly. Speaking of trash, is your trash receptacle covered? Is there a roof over it?
Yes. It's part of the plans.
I'm looking for it and I don't see it anywhere. Is that a Crystal? Is that on here somewhere missing?
Mr. Chair, if I may, the plans on sheet TE and TE-1 provide details for the trash enclosure, and you are actually very correct in identifying that a roof was not incorporated into that design, but it can be included as a condition of approval. It's something that staff would have eventually caught during the plan check process because the trash does have to be screened from any rainfall, so a cover would have to be provided, and we can include that as a condition tonight.
Thank you so much.
That's also not a problem on our end, too.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Does any commissioner have any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Spathos?
None.
Okay. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Has there been any correspondence either in favor or opposition?
There has been in opposition to the proposed project. A copy of this email has been provided on the dais for the commission. In summary, the objection identifies that they are opposed to another 7-Eleven and suggested other uses such as a fast food establishment or a coffee shop in place.
We thank the person who wrote this for delivering it to us and taking it into consideration. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition of this application?
Papa has to work. Papa has to work. Isn't that a delightful 7-Eleven? It's not really like the first one I've ever seen, like a Circle K, but it's the first one there on that corner. However, what are you doing about the MTA bus stop there, the 117? Or is it the 1115 that goes to the airport? Is that where you get your fix and get on the bus and take a cruise to the airport? That's questionable, but nobody cares. Remember, drinking's all about convenience and necessity. DUIs are more important because they create and generate monies for cities. And police officers have the hefty duty of making those arrests and determining whether or not you're fucking drunk or not. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? You got a supermarket. Thank you, Mr. Duarte. You're right. We got a supermarket. Do they sell alcohol in it already? Damn right they do. A business restaurant, market or store, or even the 88-cent store has to sell alcohol. Steve even knows it. That's why he's walking away. He doesn't want to hear this part of the story. But here's what's intrusive. Not only are we against alcohol, not only are we against e-cigarettes, not only are we against tobacco, not only are we against type 20 ABCs, but I support it. Isn't that great? Here's the flip to it. I support it because as I asked the council, and 7-Eleven Corporation should know, if you would contribute and help Dean R. Milligan get his Maserati, I have no problem. The chief of police needs a brand new Maserati, and I'm here in support of that over the sales of alcohol, drugs, and tobacco at the 7-Eleven. I hope they're listening back there. See, you got to remember, in order to catch people who are doing bad things like burglaries, as brought out here, basically you need a panic button for a 7-Eleven. Are 7-Elevens that rough? Answer me the question. Is 7-Eleven that rough? Because the 7-Elevens I've been to in Van Nuys are very, very, very polite. People get high, don't bother you. People loiter, it don't bother me. Homeless people sit there all day long and pander for money. It does not bother me because I don't live there. Do you live there, Mr. Frometa? Absolutely not. Mr. Duarte, would you want to live by a 7-Eleven? Absolutely yes, because you're a Bruin. Go Bruins. And what about Jimmy? Jimmy doesn't care. Jimmy likes alcohol as much as Mr. Rodriguez, who used to like alcohol. I'm talking about the previous chair, but that's off topic. But again, usually an alarm is a deterrent, but alarms are not effective. We just had a burglary with a guy who comes into the place with his gun, shoots the clerk dead in the head off of Imperial, jumps in his car, has a parade, then the cops gun him down 2 days later. But do not shut this 7-Eleven down. It's special. It's special because 7-Elevens are all special. They provide necessity and convenience that Jimmy likes for his kids, Miguel one day will like for his kids, Mr. Dominguez likes for hospital growth, provides money and income. And Mr. Owens doesn't really care because he's so bothered with his ridiculous plug-in cars, which I don't see and project. The world's coming to an end as long as we have drinking. It's kind of like a Costco incident, you know. You can't think straight. You take out your gun and you pistol whip people in a Costco. What kind of fucking drunk are you in that issue? Something wrong there when you can't decompress or de-escalate an issue like that. Also, what about the ADA? It says here, City of Downey standards and the American Disability Act. No, it's not going to state that on item 73 on page 32. It should state the City of Downey will comply in compliance with the Department of Justice standards. That's more important because Downey has failed in their ADA issues until I brought a $22 million improvement into Downey because I brought it to their attention. Thank you. Right? But see, you never get thanks for the appreciation of what you say and do. You always get told, please keep civility and please do not use vulgarity. Well, it's not vulgarity in my mind. It's an intensifier to get your attention to do your job. So I'm here to approve the 7-Eleven. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak either in favor or opposition of this application? Does the applicant care for rebuttal? Does the planning staff have a recommendation?
Yes, Chairman, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 19-3096, recommending approval of the zone change, PLN 18-00191, to the City Council, and that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 19-3097 to approve the site plan review and conditional use permit.
Okay, the hearing on PLN-18-00191 is now closed. Now it's time for our discussion. Commissioner Spathos, what say you?
I don't like liquor stores. I hate to be so blunt, but I think it's an improvement for the area. I think we hold 7-Eleven to a little higher regard, and I think you guys will do a wonderful job there. You've already shown that you're willing to do what's necessary to make it work and keep everyone happy. So I support the project. I think it looks nice. I think they did a good job on presenting plans. Landscape looks good. I think it'll improve the area.
Commissioner Frumetta.
I'm also in agreement that so the 7-Eleven is going to be an improvement to the area. The landscaping that it's going to provide for that area is going to be a major improvement. So I am in favor for 7-Eleven.
That's zone District 4, correct? District 4? That's District 4?
Is that District 4?
District 1? Okay. You're District 1, aren't you? Yeah. Who's District 1?
Right here? Yeah.
Ah, well, let's go to Miguel.
I think the common theme tonight was the aesthetically pleasing architecture and projects. So, I'm definitely for the project. I kind of like Commissioner Spato said, we do hold them to a little higher standard. I like the added condition that staff has included 13 in terms of the type of sales. I definitely think that's going forward, that's something that probably should be included in all similar types of projects. So I welcome that to the district.
Okay. Commissioner Owens.
I as well support the improvement to that area. I've never been a fan of used car lots. Glad to see the change out, to a quality convenience store like a 7-Eleven. The comment given us by the resident who emailed, spoke about a small restaurant and or coffee shop. 7-Eleven does both of those things, in my opinion. The one concern I do have, I addressed it with Mr. Fick when he was here, giving testimony, is on the north side of the building there, that 5 feet between, the apartment house and the side of the 7-Eleven building. I think you would be well advised, and I would ask staff to maybe put some words together to condition it accordingly, to close that off. Only because landscape is enough, but there's still a opportunity for someone or ones, to crawl in there and maybe do some things you don't want done on your property. And I think the way to handle that would be as simple as a chain link fence. And so I would certainly be in support, of a condition that might address that accordingly. But I support the project. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Duarte, you have another comment?
Just a point of clarification for the staff. On condition line item 26, the bicycle rack shall be provided on site. Is that are we talking about the new bike racks that we have that are station bikes that you can just rent out? Or is that just, that might be a good station to actually house?
The condition as written was for the private property to provide a bicycle rack for any visitors who would be stopping at the site on their own personal bicycles. In regard to a public station, we can discuss the potential of that with the Public Works Department.
Would that be on their property or city property?
The bike stations, to my understanding, it's a public works project, so it would typically be located in the public right-of-way. Otherwise, we would have to be working with private property owners to locate those on private property.
And those shared racks are a huge endeavor. Those aren't city projects. Those are funded by state or federal grants. And it's, once again, in terms of writing the grant, getting the grant, the availability of those types of activities. Currently, right now, there is no money that's allocated for that, so there wouldn't be any expansion outside of what we're already doing in the city.
Thank you. Okay, I think it's a phenomenal project. I don't like the blight, especially I don't like the blight in a couple of our areas of the city. This happens to be one of them. I think this is a phenomenal growth opportunity. Nonetheless, it's a growth opportunity that I see has some limitations in it. The limitations lie within its location. We all know that the District 1, especially in that area, is not, I don't know how to say it, but the safest perhaps. And making that assertion, I concur with Commissioner Owens regarding security, especially security of that behind that north wall with that 5-foot space. We just don't want to see vagrancies or people pitching tents or sleeping cots, etc. As far as the gate, I think that the gate is a viable option, but I'd like to have Crystal's opinion on that.
In regard to securing or enclosing those small little quirky areas that you see on properties, there's different approaches to it. If the commission did feel that they wanted to move forward with a gate, staff would strongly recommend it would be some type of wrought iron or something with high visibility so that it doesn't become an attractive location for loitering or anybody to sort of establish long-term time in that area. Lighting definitely helps with those items. Landscaping, again, as we had mentioned, were one of those items. If the Planning Commission does feel that a gate would be a better option to secure it, again, we would caution that it should have high visibility. So wrought iron, something with spacing, so that it doesn't encourage any time spent behind it or any privacy in the area.
So in terms of illumination of that area, what's the lux there currently that we're recommending? And is that a security lux or is that ambient walkway type light?
Currently, there are 2 wall fixtures that are proposed in that area. Immediately adjacent to those wall fixtures, there's an illumination of about 11-foot candles, which is a good illumination level. And as you space out, they drop down to about 5 at the lowest point, which is slightly lower. We can recommend that there's an additional wall pack that be provided in that area to increase the continued illumination, along with any other type of security features that you would provide. So again, an additional light wall fixture could add to the illumination in that area. Similarly, along the eastern property line as well.
So you're talking about north and the east walls, correct?
Correct. So currently there is one fixture provided here and here as proposed on the site, and similarly one wall fixture and another wall fixture. So adding 3, 1, 2, 3 in this area and 1, 2, 3 in this area might add to the illumination in those areas.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Owens, what's your feeling on the light versus gate versus light and gate?
I'm in favor of the 11-foot candles, that would be provided by the wall packs. That's really great lighting. I missed the east profile or the east elevation and that opening there, in considering that or looking at that to be closed off as well. So I would, again, recommend and be in favor of both the north, the 5-foot, and whatever the distance is on the east. I didn't look to scale what that was on my plan, but looks to be better than 5 feet. And wrought iron is an excellent suggestion. Now, on the east accessibility, is there a back door to 7-Eleven on that east side? Is there, for maintenance purposes, take trash out? Is trash coming out the front door only? Are there emergency exit, or are there vendors, bringing product, deliveries and things through the east entrance, or if there is an entrance?
Excuse me. On the east elevation toward the rear, there is a door for access to an electrical room. And additionally, there is a side door, an egress door, again, into that eastern area.
So the fire department would have to have access to that area?
Correct.
And if it was wrought iron gated, they'd have to have a key to the lock?
Correct. There'd have to be some type of Knox box that the fire department would have access to.
So I would, again, suggest we condition it accordingly and gate that east side, with accessibility by services, fire department or others. I don't see a need to provide a gate on the north side for the 5-foot area, that is between the building and the adjacent property line or the apartment buildings to the north. Maybe that just gets closed, completely with wrought iron. If that is feasible, those would be my suggestions in regards to conditioning those two areas.
So let me understand this. You are proposing lighting of 11 lux times 3 lighting sources for both the north and east, and a wrought iron gate on the east side only to get off the east entrance. Where would you end that?
So it'd be even with the building edge, the
So-
exterior of the building.
So there would still be an open area from the north around the back and coming down?
The north side would be closed off completely.
I'm sorry, with what? Gate?
Yeah, wrought iron.
Oh, so you want
As-
gate on
as-
the north also?
No
Gotcha.
gate on the north required, but on the east elevation, coming from,
Yeah.
east side of the building in a northerly direction if we're walking, because of the electrical panel and other utilities that would be located back there, it would have to be gated with a lock so that the emergency services or, other admitted personnel could get back in there and do some things.
So you're saying a fixed structure on the northwest and a mobile structure on the southeast area, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Does that sound feasible too, Crystal? Do you see any safety or administrative concerns on that?
Can I just seek some additional clarification? So for staff's clarification, there was agreement that 3 light fixtures should be required on the northern side of the building, 3 light fixtures should be provided on the eastern side of the building, and additionally, we would want to provide a wrought iron gate in an appropriate area to secure the eastern side of the building. And again, staff can work with the applicant to find the appropriate area to secure this area. So again, somewhere in this general area, we'll be placing a gate along with adjacent to the, or in parallel in line with the building toward the rear on the north end. Is that correct?
So far.
Okay.
And I believe Commissioner Owens wants a fixed wrought iron structure on the northwest corner of the building there.
In this area?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what he's discussing currently.
Okay.
Right?
I do want to.
Commissioner Owens, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Fermetta.
I just want to bring up a concern.
Yes.
That's an egress in the back. You cannot close an egress route. So we have to be careful in blocking egress around that building.
We're going to breakaway gate.
So you could,
You have to have panic hardware. It has to be approved.
Good point. Good point, sir.
Good point, excellent. Locked but panicked. Yeah.
Any other comments on this?
I have, can you pull up like one more slide back? I have a question in regards, and Commissioner Owens brought up a good point. So that's a trash bin that looks like it covers probably 50% of the building frontage on Gardendale. So the area immediately behind it to the east, like I can just picture walking back there, going to buy something at the 7-Eleven. That looks like an ideal place for somebody to set up a shopping cart and go to sleep. I mean, it's hidden. there's an open walkway in the back, and actually you brought it up and it brought my attention to the trash area there. That area is so enclosed that the only person who can see it is a person who walks up, looks to the right, and sees that little area right there. I can't read what it says, but it's I thought you brought up a very good point by, I think that doesn't solve the issue of having a very enclosed area right behind that trash bin. Why wouldn't they consider maybe putting the trash bin, and I know this is kind of going out there, but putting the trash bin on the Downey Avenue side where the blue car is on the northwest side, instead of having it right in front of the building on Gardendale? It just doesn't make any sense to me. That way you're closing off the entire northwest corner with a wrought iron gate. You have the trash that's enclosed in the back, and it doesn't impede on frontage from Gardendale. I think it would be a much better idea. Just my thoughts. And I think you would clear up that little questionable area just behind and to the east of the garbage area.
So the main entrance is off of Downey Avenue. Is that correct, Crystal? Yeah, so you'd have a garbage can like one parking space away from the main entrance. Aesthetically and practically, I'm not sure I'm in favor of that. But good point. I like what you're thinking. So Crystal, the eastern yard, is that 10 feet wide?
There is a 15-foot dimension in that area.
15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Commissioner Spathos, does that 15 feet alter your impression at all?
I think that makes it look like a park. Actually, I think that's even worse. I mean, it looks like a nice place where you can set up a picnic blanket and have a, siesta. So I agree that there definitely needs to be a wrought iron fence there of some sort, but I'm just concerned with the trash enclosure right when you drive in from the Gardendale side. I think traffic count is probably much higher on Gardendale than it is on Downey Avenue anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm right, but I'm assuming that's the case. Yeah. Why is it that they have that big space on the east side between the wall and the property line that you mentioned that's 10 feet between the building wall and the fence?
The required setback for that area is 15 feet, so 15 feet was provided.
Yeah.
What are you proposing, Commissioner?
I just don't think it looks right driving in to a 7-Eleven. I don't know. Maybe the applicant can give us an idea. They probably are much more familiar with their operation. But driving in from Gardendale, you're driving into a trash enclosure.
So what if they changed orientation from the entrance of the trash cans 180 degrees, so that as you're pulling in from Gardendale, all you see is hedges and a brick wall, and the actual opening to the garbage bins is facing the building, which does not have an entrance? Does that make any difference to you?
So you would see a wall driving in, you're saying, to the project site?
I'm just trying to be creative here.
Yeah.
Since your opposition is to seeing the garbage cans, you pull in and you see a wall with hedges. Now, I think that might be problematic for waste management, because now someone's got to get out of the truck, pull it out. But, I don't know how that compromises waste management. Maybe you have to pull that back a little further, give more clearance. I don't know. But I'm trying to work with you here on what you're saying. And, I agree with what you're talking about there. But I don't have a creative solution.
Mr. Chair, if I may, given the concern that was raised, you're correct in that placing it here, which would be essentially creating the same situation that is here, just placing it on a different corner. This might be an alternative that staff can explore with the applicant during the plan check process. We may be able to orient this so that we can place a trash enclosure there, so we're not creating this similar type of situation, since it is on a corner, and then the 2 parking spaces that we lose here, theoretically, we would be able to gain in this area. Again, we have not been able to evaluate whether or not that would work, but that's an alternative for consideration.
I'm not sure I like that. Yeah, in fact, what do the rest of commissioners feel about the proposal of moving the trash enclosure to where the two trees are currently?
I personally think that the trash enclosure is in the adequate space. Moving it over to the space that you're suggesting will create more of an issue. Currently, right now, Waste Management or whoever the company comes in, opens those doors, they lift and dump into their truck, and they're out. Moving it any place else other than there will create an issue.
What about the security question that was raised?
In regards to the security question, the only way to put a gate there would be that it meets the life safety code. That's only my concern. Because anywhere where there's an egress.
No, we're talking about the trash can area.
Oh.
Make sure it doesn't look like a
No,
park.
it needs to stay in that same direction. No changes to it.
No changes, okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Owens?
I'm in agreement with Commissioner Frometta. Same thing. It appears to be in the best possible spot. However, with the concerns I brought up about just whoever does what they may do on that site, I have the same concern. You know, it's a considerable parkway. It's going to be, with trees, very nicely landscaped. Good place to lay down, I guess. Camp out, I guess. And maybe the trash enclosure, provides some cover for that kind of activity. How to really deal with it, though, that's my challenge. I don't see an alternative. I see that's probably the best possible spot.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just again as a reminder, believe these considerations are considerations that staff did take, did also have when we were reviewing the project. And again, one of the creative outlets that we do have is to try to apply, defensive landscaping is a term often used. And again, that's providing landscaping at varying heights, not anything that's low, so that it is inviting to sort of, put stuff down and have a picnic. Something that makes it a little bit more difficult to try to walk through, let alone loiter or spend any amount of time in those areas. And those are things that we are going to be looking for. There's a landscape plan that was provided, and we did add an additional condition that all of the shrubs and the heights were going to be subject to city planner approval, because we want to make sure that we're providing the different dimensions that'll be necessary so that it's not an attractive area.
Thank you, Crystal. Commissioner Duarte, any comments on Commissioner Spatho's concerns?
Well, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Frometta. When I look at this, I think, if we move it to the other side on Downey Avenue, it's the same issues, but probably even worse because the main opening is on the Downey Avenue side to get into the 7-Eleven. And just by, if we lose those two parking spaces, if they move it right to the south with that corner with the two shrubs there, lose those two parkings, and if you add them to the, where the trash can is right now, it's kind of away from the building. It makes it a little more inconvenient, I think, for customers. So I'm in agreement with Commissioner Frometta. I just think, maybe not might not be ideal, but I think it's the best spot for the trash.
Okay, so in hearing all this, I tend to agree with Commissioner Spathos on the aesthetics. I certainly don't want to pull into a driveway and see trash cans. But I'm not creative enough to play Tetris on this model and come up with an alternative. I do disagree vehemently with changing it to Downey Avenue or removing it in lieu of those two trees. As far as security of that area is concerned, 15 feet I think is a wide enough breadth that one can understand if there's loitering or trespassers, and here's where the police department can come in. And if we need to, then we can add a condition where security, would be provided by 7-Eleven if it's found that loitering is increased in its dimension. So that's what I'm looking at here. So I think we're back to square one where Commissioner Owens' proposition before. Commissioner Spathos, do you have any closing comments on that?
No, I agree with you. I think it's, I'm not creative enough to solve that one either, but, I think you have to give and take, and I agree. I think we should definitely do something about closing off that east side and the north side.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Schindler.
Well, just in closing, that east side, you're not going to see trash cans when you pull in. So those doors will be closed, and that's going to need to be maintained as an enclosure. You also heard from staff, is the commission brought it up, there'll be a rooftop enclosure as that as well. What we will do, which in listening to the Planning Commission, you had some great suggestions and concerns, is we will condition, or during the plan check process, we will condition combative landscaping on that 15-foot setback. So it's going to be very uncomfortable for somebody to loiter, walk, or so forth. At the same time, it'll be green and attractive in that area. The 15 feet, that's required by code, because once again, we're balancing a lot of different things, and we'd like to provide a buffer to the uses on that side. So I think that combative landscaping in general is something that we could apply to help alleviate any loitering.
Although we had this a couple of years ago, this artworks requirement for business that came in.
Yes, the art in public places requirement.
Okay, so help me. Can we ask that they put in, or require they put in artwork on the doors? That way it looks like, artwork instead of doors for trash receptor?
We can ask for
mural?
decorative doors.
We can?
And we can work on that. And not through the Art in Public Places program, but through the design process, we could push for very, how should I say, decorative doors there so that they look a lot prettier as you pull into that site off of Gardendale.
So Crystal, could you draw some language for us on that, please? I mean, you guys feel okay with that? I'm okay with that. Yeah, okay. Yes.
Great idea.
Okay.
I like that.
Crystal?
Mr. Chair, if I may, for clarification, the decorative doors would be in regard to the style of the door, or in regard to putting some type of display or creative mural on the glass?
It's the door type.
The door type.
It's the door type.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever Aldo says.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking mural, but he said no, so it's the door. Okay. So is there any further discussion on this application? Okay. So may I have a motion on this application to either accept with the amendments as Crystal has elucidated, or deny it?
Motion.
So I think we're going to make a motion to follow staff's recommendation, and we'll have staff read into the record those additions and changes to the conditions.
Okay.
And that'll be incorporated into the motion. So let's take care of that first.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of all on the same page on the conditions. Then we'll take your motion.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have a few potential conditions that I heard tonight, so I will read them. They will be new condition 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40, and all numbering below that will be adjusted accordingly. New condition number 36 will read, trash enclosure must include a solid cover in compliance with Public Works Department standards. Condition number 37 will read, a wrought iron gate must be provided in an appropriate location to secure the east area of the building. The area east of the building. Condition number 38, the north and east side of the building must be provided with 3 light fixtures on each side. Condition number 39, if numerous complaints are received, the Planning Commission reserves the right to bring the item back for consideration for the need to apply security patrolling conditions. And condition 40 is a decorative door shall be provided on the building.
So we do have, I wasn't able to write it down. We do have the fixed wrought iron on the northwest section of the building, correct?
I will add that to condition 37. A wrought iron gate must be provided in an appropriate area to secure the east area of the building, and a fixed Wrought iron gate shall be provided on the north side of the area north of the building.
Okay. And can we make sure that we're specific of the 3 lights on the north and the east are no less than 11 lux or 11-foot candles, whatever you use?
Okay, so then the condition will read, the north and east side of the building must be provided with 3 light fixtures so that they provide no less than 11-foot candles in the area. Okay.
Does any other staff want to say anything else? No? Okay. Okay, so can we have a motion now?
So the first motion would be to approve a resolution. What's the resolution number? Oh, the first one for the
19-3096.
The first resolution number was 19-3096.
So that would be approving resolution number 19-3096. That's of the Planning Commission of the City of Downey approving a site plan and conditional use permit. That's PLN 18-00191. A request to construct a 2,800 square foot convenience store and allow the sale of beer, off sale of beer and wine type 20 alcoholic beverage control ABC license. Addressed at 13034 Downey Avenue, with the amended conditions as stated on the record by the city planner.
Okay, so I like that language. Can I have a motion from one of the commissioners, please?
Motion?
May I have a second? We have a first and a second, so do we vote?
The motion passes with all 5 in favor to adopt Resolution 19-3096, thereby approving PLN 18-00191 with modified conditions as stated.
There's a second resolution there too. There's 2 actions, is that right, staff?
Second resolution.
It's a resolution of the Planning Commission recommending to the City Council that it approve a zoning map amendment. What's the resolution number on that one?
19-3097.
That would be resolution number 19-3097 of the Planning Commission recommending that the City Council approve a zoning map amendment.
Make a motion as stated.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. We have a vote, please, Mary.
The motion passes with all 5 in favor to adopt Resolution 19-3097, recommending City Council approval for zone change PLN 18-00191.
So it's been moved, seconded, and approved for Resolutions 19-3096 and 19-3097 regarding PLN-18-00191 has been approved times 2. So the action of the Planning Commission will be final unless the matter is appealed to City Council with appropriate fees within a specified amount of time as set forth in the city's ordinance. Thank you very much. Now is the time for non-agenda public comment. Is there anybody in the audience wishes to present? Please state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments limited to non-agenda public items.
Non-agenda, Steve. So as you already know, I brought to the attention of our mayor, Rick Rodriguez, for the record, to reflect. I allege, by reason of the foregoing, that the mayor, Mr. Rodriguez, willfully and intentionally misconduct to suppress me during public comment, acted with recklessness, callous disregard, and with deliberate indifference. What does that all mean? It means constitutional rights by an evil motive or intent to censor public comment and prevent myself and the public from exercising his or her right to free speech, right of assembly, right of due process, the malice and oppression brought upon the public speakers, Ms. Garcia, for the record. May I reframe that? The right to due process, but thereby depriving, let me reframe that, the legal and constitutional rights or otherwise causing injury. Ms. Garcia, let me reframe that to reflect claim for relief. Violations of 1st, 5th, 14th Amendments and Article Section 2 of the California Constitution regarding poor enforcement of unconstitutional rules of decorum when the speaker has the floor. Do I have the floor? Apparently I do. If not, call the District Office of the United States Department of Justice, DOJ, 950 Pennsylvania Avenue, NW, Civil Rights Section, NYA, Washington, D.C., 20530. What does this all mean? Well, I'm talking about our public right. Our public right to be heard, our public right to exercise First Amendment. God bless Trump. Thank you, Donald Trump. However, though, I want to relate to what is a direct threat. Let's take an example. Estates of Saylor, Saylor for the record, versus Regal Cinemas, INC 54F, Soup 3D 409 424 DMD 2014. Why did the police have to engage against a man with Down syndrome in the cinemas and take a life? Why did the LAPD off-duty officer have to engage in Costco to suppress a family by wielding a gun, disruptively wielding a gun, not only killing a 30-year-old son who was nonverbal and disabled? Maybe he had an invisible disability, Mr. Jimmy. Maybe it was Stephen's son, nonverbal. Maybe it was Mr. Frometta not understanding that the man was disabled based on perceived strange, abusive language. However, the incident of that night, that day, at that place was unconstitutional. For an officer to take his service arm into Costco with a baby, endangering a child, and then endangering a family, and then killing 2 people at this point, because we don't know if the mother's going to survive. We don't know that. How do you explain to a family in the public, you take a firearm because you're a pussy into a public place to kill innocent people because you don't know how to decompress? You got trained. You got professionally trained to decompress, and no, the son of a bitch wielded out his gun, feared for his life. I fear for my fucking life every time I come to a meeting because I'm being threatened by people, retaliated by people, intimidated by people, and I can't even say the goddamn name of an attorney who accuses me of bullshit. 42 U.S.C. 1983, fuck you. I have a right, my constitutional right, and I hope the public listens into all this shit. It's all shit. Take it back, Michael Moore.
Moving right along now to consent killer items. We're going to look at item number 4. It's my understanding that minutes of August 15th, 2018, we have abstention from Commissioner Owens and from Frometta. Commissioner Spathos viewed the video.
I did view the video from the August 15th meeting, and I approve of the minutes.
Okay, thank you so much.
So, what
There's
I'd
not a
like to-
vote from what I understand. It's just
Can I suggest something, since this is a consent calendar item, unless there's someone who wants to pull any items, that you just simply just note on the record which item of those 3 you're going to abstain on, and then take a motion in a second, then ask for public comment, and then take your vote. Okay? That's all you need to do. So, of the 3 items, everybody, whoever's abstaining, just say that on the record. That would be the first step. And then we take a motion in a second, ask for public comment, then you can take your vote.
You ready?
So there would be a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So I make a motion to approve the consent calendar, all one motion.
And any abstentions?
So, abstaining from number 5,
So that would be the minutes of December 5, 2018.
correct?
Any other abstentions?
And I'll abstain from number 5 as well. Oh, I'm sorry,
4.
number 4 as
Okay.
well.
Frometta, 4.
Commissioner Owens for the minutes of August 15th. And then
I abstain from the,
Commissioner Frometta, is that August 15th?
yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, public comment? Public comment?
Is there anyone wishing to have a
Consent
public
calendar
comment
items?
on the consent calendar items?
This would be the time to have public comment on consent calendar items. Can you reset the time, please?
Here are the 2 calendars. Let's go to the date of December 5th, 2018. Mr. Owen backed down from the approval of the minutes from December 6, 2017. As the Vice Chair, Mr. Dominguez, approval of Planning Commission minutes have, as usual, were delayed. Although you were 2 minutes late this time, but the delay on this process of 2017 is reflecting what Mr. Schindler explained on the workload. Mr. Schindler's workload is very difficult because he works in 2 critical areas, that of gateway and gateway development. And that workload and those minutes triaged, as the fancy word here, TRIAGED, and the meeting of the legislative was done. Staff attempts to catch up with all the minutes of its workload. Well, you should be caught up now. Let's fast forward to today. Have we met that workload, or are we behind? Thank you, Mr. Owens. You're right. So as Mr. Owens sits in his chair with his eyes closed, passing time, we see the 3-2 vote for the Commissioner of Flores, and Commissioner Frometta was abstained. That was on the calendar of December 5th, 2018. And then I go back into the calendar of August 15th. And item 1, PL number 180098, site plan review, condition use permit, and variance. Well, I'm weary about a variance. I'm weary, very weary. You could have gave a variance to 7-Eleven before they left, changing their gates or fences to ironwork. Come on. It's one or the other. Least expensive or the most expensive? But it got done. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You fulfilled that promise so far. Then, in the comments, as I shall read, Non-agenda public comments. Mr. Magura requests the dead end signs on Marble Avenue be moved closer to Firestone Boulevard. Schindler advised Mr. Murga, M-U-R-G-A for the record, to speak directly to Public Works to have the signs moved. Well, I believe he came here because he's making that request and petition through the Public Works Department here within this commission. If not, this commission can forward this complaint or concern over to a motion in council chambers and let our great Mayor Rick Rodriguez be the problem solver and save the day regarding the signs. In addition to that, other business, Director Schindler of Gateways informed the commission on the upcoming presentation regarding September 19, 2018, regarding updates of the latest upcoming legislative regarding housing and their effects on local municipalities. While Gateways has done nothing but given me a headache because I participated in one meeting in Cerritos, and Mr. Schindler talked to the woman there who canceled the meeting at 11:30 in the morning in the library. He only had 6 lunches. One wasn't for me, but thank you for the drinks. I enjoyed my water and Coke. But next time when you cancel a meeting after having me sit there for 45 minutes and engaging my mind in disrespect, disconsideration to this beautiful meeting that we were planning to create gateway cities, never happened. So, for the record, I demand that Aldo E. Schindler find a calendar spot in place, put it in a public place so the public can participate in gateway cities. So we don't have that jackass Mayor Eric Garcetti cohorting the way it's going to be planned out. Your plan for development has failed. The CRA fucked them politely. They failed. This is the reason why we have housing problems, Mr. Schindler, but you apparently don't care. Watch out. The FBI is watching me as much as they're watching you. Because remember, what I trigger is what the FBI looks into. Because we got Los Angeles into trouble. We got Los Angeles, Jose Weezer and his fat wife from Salesian Bishop Amont, the Catholic Church, for money laundering.
Okay, so do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Mary? I think we...
Commissioner Owens?
No.
Are we gonna
You
take
want to
a-
do
Can we
the,
take a vote?
We
on
have
the
a first and a second, yes?
I was-
yeah, I had made a
Motion and
motion.
a second to approve the consent calendar as presented, with the noting the abstentions.
We're doing the electronic vote, right?
Yeah.
Never see it go.
My apologies, the vote is now open. Please place your votes. The motion passes with 5 in favor to approve the consent calendar with abstentions from the August 15th minutes by Commissioner Fermetta and Commissioner Owens, and abstention from the December 5th, 2018 minutes by Commissioner Spadopoulos.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have any new business, or does any commissioner wish to discuss any business? Commissioner Spathos.
None.
Commissioner Frometta.
None.
Commissioner Owens.
I do have one thing in, just to bring it back up. So we had some residents come in last commission meeting in and around the Tiempo Cantina. Do we have status or any information about their concerns?
Yeah, I can let the city planner reply to that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, after we received the comments from the resident, we did look up the resolution and all of the conditions that were applied to it. Staff is currently reaching out to the business owner to bring them in so we can sit down and have a meeting with them to ensure compliance with all conditions of approval, because we have received complaints at this point. So again, we will sit down with them and point for point go over the conditions regarding noise. Additionally, we'll take the opportunity to request their gross receipts and make sure that they're in compliance with that regulation as well, which states that they can't have more alcohol sales than food sales at the location. So we are currently addressing that complaint.
Is there a reach back to the residents that came in with the concerns and let them know the results of your meeting, your advisement?
Yes, absolutely. We will go ahead and we will make contact with those residents just to let them know that we are following up, and we are going to want to maintain contact with them to ensure that the business owner is in compliance after our meeting. And if there's any additional complaints, we want to hear about them as well.
Great, thank you so much.
So I think the issue there was noise.
Correct.
Right? So we have a 65 decibel noise limit with abatement thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to survey? Are we going to rely upon complaints from residents, or are we going to go out there with noise meters?
At this point, I don't think we've reached the level where we need noise meters. To my understanding, the business was able to operate in compliance previously after its initial approval. I think there's just a matter of there was a change in ownership and the new owner may not be familiar with exactly what all of the conditions are, and they may not be aware that the city does pay attention and follow up on these. So we're hoping that the initial meeting will open their eyes, bring them to the awareness that we're paying attention. And if we need to go further past that, if there's additional complaints, then we'll work with the police department and ensure that we're getting compliance.
Thank you. Commissioner Owens, is it satisfactory to you?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Is there, you have any other?
That was all I had, thank you.
Vice Chairman Doherty?
I have none.
Okay. I likewise don't have any new business to discuss. Does the Director of Community Development have any additional comments?
Nothing tonight, Chairman.
Oh, come on. All right, then we're adjourned.